Pleased that none of you have taken the opportunity now I'm coming up to close your eyes and go to sleep. Can I ask you, just quickly, can you stand up if you've heard me talk before? Please.
In person? Or?
Yeah, well, online as well, it's fine. Can you also stand up if you've not heard me talk before, please? Can we all just take a couple of steps closer to the front, just so that we're in this area so I can grab a selfie for my own socials? Thanks. You did half of the work, you got onto your feet. Toby, can you come to the front, mate? I need the photographer at the front.
Me as well, if you want.
You can come to the front. Well, you're at the front there. Not a problem, Shelley. Can we all just about see? Toby, a bit closer. Are we all in? I'm not. No. Toby, this way, this way, this way. Are we all in? Are we all in?
Good enough, it's Liam Gallagher.
3, 2, 1. Cheese. Thanks. You can all take your seats. You've just given me a social post. I appreciate that. Yeah, pretty much. That, ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty much the idea behind just doing it and getting some social content right. It's not going to be the perfect social post for me, but what it will do is it will do a little bit of what we call position of authority marketing. So it shows people that I'm up on a stage, and it looks good, right? It might be the worst 15 minutes of your life now, or 11 minutes of your life, 13 minutes of your life. With that in mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some actionable tips. Can I ask you to raise your hand if you have had some value from today? I'll go home. No, that's what this is all about, right? We want you to get business growth support, personal development support, and we want stuff that you can then go and implement. And with that in mind, hopefully, well, some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about will be a recap of things that people like Charlie have talked about, or Neil's talked about, Katie's talked about, Emma's talked about, the other Emma's talked about, all of that together, Kaz, of course. And what I've just done was the Kaz piece, by the way. But there's a few sort of resonating messages, and I'm not going to lie to you. So I paint a picture on social media. Lots of people see that I'm a busy gentleman, right? And what Tommy was saying earlier on about the sort of stress of being a business owner, I feel that stress sometimes, and my wife gets angry at me when I go out to beers and business and stuff and come home at 2 in the morning steaming. And I explain to her, this is all business, darling, this is all business. We need to do it, and if we don't do it, the business won't grow, and therefore I won't be able to put food on the table for the children, and they'll starve, and then it'll be miserable. But what it does go to show is that growth isn't linear, and it's not always easy, and I have struggles, and I'm sure you all have struggles within your business, and it's been great that we've been able to talk about some of those struggles today. But the growth isn't linear, but is important, and it's nice to be able to recognise that, I think, and it's nice to be able to recognise that sometimes we might take a dip, but we just know that if we keep pushing with all of the stuff that all of the speakers have spoken about today, we'll start to see that growth. So some of the stuff that you can do, if you've heard me talk before, and many of you have, you'll have heard this talk or a variation of this talk thousands of times and you'll be bored to death of it. But the key thing being that I talk about starting with the end in mind, don't I? So I know what I want to achieve in 5, 10 years' time, and that's I'd like to be having VIP tickets to the Formula One all the time. And by the way, Max Verstappen is definitely not the best. It's Ferrari, as we all know, is the dominant team, but yet to really show their true potential. But the key thing being that I know that the groundwork that I'm putting in now, the hard work that I'm putting in now will hopefully get me that lifestyle or get me that time and that freedom and stuff that I want. And so what I have to do is I have to take a step back sometimes. And that step backwards that I have to take is this. It's the wine bottle. And it's not beers and business. That's not a metaphor for me getting drunk all the time. What this is sometimes when you're inside the business, when you're inside the bottle, you can't see the label. So you can't see what other people see. You can't see what they see about the business. So what I tend to do is, and I've told many of you before that every single morning between 9 and 10 and every afternoon between 4 and 5, nobody can book into my diary. It's time that I spend on business development, and that might be responding to LinkedIn messages. It might be writing tenders. It might be writing proposals or chasing proposals. That's the sort of stuff that we're referring to. So I take time to look at the label on the bottle, look at what the business is doing, look at where I'm failing as a boss or as a colleague, look at where we're doing really well, and then sort of double down on those sorts of things. So I'd encourage you to do the same thing. I call it creative thinking time, and that is me going to the pub. I go to the pub, I'll get a beer, and I'll take a notepad with me, and I'll be like, one of the speakers said earlier, and this is my apologies for not remembering, but somebody talked about kissing the toad, or licking the toad, Sam. So that is a really a message that resonates with me, and the resilience that she showed in business resonates with me. But sometimes you've got to do that, and sometimes writing down those notes when you go for a pint is the answer. One of the things that when you go for that pint, non-alcoholic drinks are available, apparently. What you might choose to do is have a look at your web presence, have a look at your website. How many people have got Google Analytics set up on the website? How many people have looked at it within the last week? I'm impressed. Some of the marketers in the room. So I would encourage you to do that if you haven't already. And if you haven't got Google Analytics set up or Google Search Console set up and these sorts of things, implement them or get some support to implement them. And if anybody needs any help with it, it takes 15 minutes, we'll help. Because that's the data that you need to recognise how well you're doing, or certainly how well your website's doing, for example. And that's one step towards then knowing what you can do to make it better or to improve your business. Another thing to do is have a look at your website authority checker. Has everybody heard of the term domain authority score? For those that haven't, it's basically a score that's given to you by these search engines, typically speaking, things like Google, in this case Moz, which tells you out of 100 how well your website scores. And in theory, if you just fast forward a little bit, how likely the engine or the platform is to be able to start sending you traffic. So if anybody wants it, it's in the slides. The next slide is a link to that website domain authority checker. So it's just a tool. You just put your website address in, you ask it to run the report, and it'll give you a score. Don't be disheartened if your score is lower than 10, lower than 15. The majority of websites are. It just means that we've got a little bit of work to do. It gives us plenty of opportunity to improve. And some of the stuff that you'll theoretically do will be the blog contents that we've been talking about, creating backlinks and those sorts of things. And then what that does, those backlinks, creates the digital footprint. And you've heard me talk about the digital footprint before, I'm sure, but basically it's trying to make ourselves more visible online. So if you're not on Yell, for example, create your free listing and just make sure that you don't tick yes to them marketing you, because they'll send you spammy messages all the time. But get your profiles on Yell and get your profiles on Thompson Local and all those different platforms just to help build your business presence. And you'll thank me in 6 months' time, I'm sure. Being that we're all local businesses, my thinking is that we can't work with everybody. It's a nice problem to have, but it's a sad problem at the same time. So I guess we're more picky, if you like, as to who we choose to work with. But I thought to myself, how can we support as many businesses as we possibly can? So we created something called the Lincolnshire Business Directory. This isn't a sales pitch, by the way. But what you're able to do using the Lincolnshire Business Directory is to get a free listing. It's the same as Thompson Local. It's the same as Yell. I'm not reinventing the wheel. All of the create an on link and a bit of a profile online. And there's a link there to the free sign up, should you wish. One of the things that we've grown quite dramatically, I guess, in the last 2 years. I've never wanted a business. I didn't want a business. I did want a business. What I didn't want was a team. That's nothing against the guys at the back. But my vision, my plan, my goals was always to earn enough money to have the time freedom that I wanted, to be able to take my boys to school, or my boy as it was at the time, to school, and to go out for a beer when I wanted, really. That was pretty much. Oh, and to pay the mortgage. That's also important, apparently. So that was my focus. So when I came to Lincoln, when I started working in Lincoln again, I used the principle called surround yourself with people who know more than you do. And I can see a couple of you looking and smiling, thinking everybody knows more than you do, Tom. You're not wrong. That's why we've got a team at the back, and which is why Trousers runs our conference for us. But at the same time, I'm going to share a little story, and I don't want to embarrass anybody here, but when I started Lincolnshire Marketing, I didn't know anybody in Lincoln. So we had a local client, and I brought David in to do the photography for said client. And afterwards, we went to the pub. David's idea, of course, not mine. Was dragged along. And as a result, the principle for Beers and Business came about, the idea of building relationships. And this is me being selfish. David had a better network in Lincoln than I did, so I wanted to harness that and grab him, and I've not let him go since. And at the same time, I spoke to Glenn. And Glenn is a director at Lincoln United Football Club and has got a network as long as your arm. It's a good person to know. He is available for drinks in the bar later. And so I just had a chat with him and said, is there anything I can do to help with the football club? And I did. Two years later, I'm free. No, but the result being that we've built a network around that and a business relationship. So, and then of course, Trousers and Dan, I must call him Dan in a professional setting. So Dan and I went for a beer because our eyes met over a Lincoln Business Club table, and we said, let's go for a beer. Met at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I can't remember, 2 o'clock in the morning. Shots at 5, I think it was, wasn't it? So, but look now. I can't remember. Anyway, business relationship. Referrals come off the back of it. We work with each other. We support one another. Dan's instrumental in the Beers and Business community and things. It's all about relationships, right? That's because I didn't know anybody. I surround myself with people who know more than I do. The point being, and the actionable tip that I'm eating vastly into my time just to tell you, is that if you just have a look around the room now, you'll find some incredibly influential people. Harness them and never let them go. And it's the same with the other two gentlemen. MJ, who's the guy that stood next to me on the screen, he works with us as a non-exec director within our business, and he knows more about SEO than I'll ever know, and website footprints, and he's, I'm sure, fed up of all my stupid questions at like 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm thinking, oh, will there ever be a boy born that can swim faster than a shark? And that's, I don't send him that text message, but you get the idea, stupid questions. But there's no such thing as a stupid question. And MJ doesn't make me feel stupid. He's part of my, is it Zig Ziglar that says you're the sum of the 5 people you most closely surround yourself with? Well, he's one of my 5. So I told you the principle behind Beers and Business, and Dan mentioned it earlier on. It's not a selling thing. We don't allow sales pitches. We go, we have a beer, then we have another beer, and we all network.
Sometimes have pizza as well.
We do, well, yeah, I missed the last pizza, but yeah, the point being that it's a business community, and you could create your own business community. We always tell our clients to own the asset, and there's a reason why David and I decided to do this, is so that we can selfishly decide who comes along to it. We can control that so that if business were to come, it comes as a result of the people that we invite along, because we know that they're either influential, nice people, whatever the case may be. But it's about owning the asset in that case. I'm biased, aren't I, now, because we've got awards. So I'm bound to say go in for awards. But the point, I guess, I'm trying to make here is go in for decent awards. You're not supposed to laugh. Ours are decent. The reason we launched awards was because I was fed up of awards where you had to pay to enter, or where you were contacted by an awards provider to say, we're absolutely delighted to say that you won an award. And then you think, oh, I didn't apply for that award. And then they say, all you need to do is just pay a trophy fee of £299, and then you can come along to our reception, and that's only £599. And that really frustrated me. And also, there was no transparency around the judging process. So I thought to myself, well, we've got an audience here. We've got the ability to sort of create something good within Lincolnshire for business growth and marketing. So we launched the Lincolnshire Marketing Awards. It's all independently judged. I still don't know who's won tonight's awards. There's 2 people that do know, and that's Ross at the back of the room. So if you're up for an award and you want to know, is it 50 quid or 100 quid that you'll tell them? How much was it? And the other person that knows is Glenn. Okay, so either way, you'll find out who's won before I do. But the key thing being that you go in for awards, and somebody said earlier on that awards, they've got a shelf life basically. So typically speaking, the Lincolnshire Marketing Awards 2024 will be good for a year. So you've got to keep going in for these things. But it's a good credibility source if you can find decent awards to go in for. The video piece, there's been a resounding message around that. And anybody who's watched or looked at our Lincolnshire Marketing's LinkedIn throughout the course of the day, Callum has been dragging me outside to do quick, short videos. I know, I think I said earlier on, I've got a face for radio. I recognise it, but it's good content. We get stuff out there. We add value where we possibly can. So we put ourselves on YouTube, and then we repurpose that content for TikTok and Instagram. I'm looking for nods, Callum, in Facebook Reels and those sorts of things. And just expands our reach. So I'd encourage you to do the same thing. And I do all of my videos and stuff on here, and then I'll just send it to Callum to make them look pretty as best he can. But you can do the same thing. So I'd encourage you to do that. So before you leave, wouldn't it be great if you just did a selfie with the person next to you? If we could do it now. Well, 1 minute 28, we can't do it now. We'll do it at the end. Take a selfie. If you grab Kaz and get her in the selfie as well, that would be good. But the key thing being, take some action and do something with regards to taking a video. If you're going to get reviews, my philosophy on this might not be the most popular philosophy, is to get your reviews on Google. Google's the biggest search engine. 93% of traffic goes through Google, and that was as of June, that statistic. So I would go for Google reviews over anything first. Once you've got more reviews than your closest geographical competitor, then start to think about things like Trustpilot or Facebook and those sorts of things. But Google, it will be your best friend first. I've talked to you about the building relationships thing, right? It's been the biggest driver of business for us, building relationships, and it will continue to do so. And then the next thing, and this may be an unpopular opinion, is that I've got my fingers in a few pies, and I recognise that some of the projects that I'm working on won't all work, but some of them might. The key thing that we're doing though is building data. So I would say before we're a marketing agency, we're a data business. So there's a reason why we have a booking form to book tickets for this event and selfishly, so that we can get your information, your email address, it goes into our CRM system. And then we might be able to tell you about other events like Beers and Business and those sorts of things. But ultimately, that's a pie. So Beers and Business is a pie, Lincolnshire Marketing's a pie, we've got legal growth, which is a pie. And if one of them fails, then we've got the other ones to fall back on, and it's not, hopefully not going to cripple us. So that's the point. And then the next finger in pie that we've got, and again, you all need one, is a CRM system. There's a perfectly good one here, Tom CRM, not a sales pitch. But obviously you're all aware what a CRM system is, right? I would suggest that if you haven't got a CRM system, get one. There's perfectly good ones. I know Jodie's a massive fan of CRM systems. You're like a collector of CRM systems, aren't you? So maybe grab Jodie afterwards. Grab Jodie afterwards and have a conversation with her over a coffee perhaps, and just say, what features do you like about different CRM systems, and then find out what might suit your needs within a business context for a CRM system, whether it's email marketing, telephones, AI integrations, whatever it might be. But just have a little think. But your CRM system will be your best friend. And if we take what Neil was saying earlier, we're starting with the end in mind. He's basically saying get sale ready. And he's also said in the past, get sale ready even if you're never going to sell. just from a processes and systems perspective, having something like a CRM system would be fundamentally important. So I would certainly encourage you to do that. So there's a link to Tom CRM, not a sales pitch. The next thing to think about is giving away your best information for free. There's a book by Marcus Sheridan called They Ask You Answer. It's probably my favourite book in the world, and I'm going to ruin it for you all now. Basically, the principle that he says is that you give away all of your information for free, your best information for free, and on the basis that you're as transparent as you possibly can be, and then the people, your prospects, when they contact you, they're essentially a motivated purchaser. So blog articles on your website, videos embedded into blogs and things like that, by answering all of the questions that a prospect could possibly have is a key thing. And it might be that then you've got the call to action on one of those blog posts will be, come download this free guide, which gives you 3 more tips. And that free guide might be your information capture, which that data you take then and you can use from a sales perspective without it being too salesy. So fundamentally, those are I guess, the key things. This, and that's a link to my Calendly link, or not Calendly, Tom CRM link. So if anybody wants to book in a consultation for free 30 minutes just to go through, I don't know, digital footprint, or wants to go for a beer, then you can book in using that link.